Welcome to the town of Wakefield, Massachusetts, approximately 8 square miles in size, located 12 miles northeast of Boston with a population of 25,000 people. Wakefield takes pride in its natural beauty. The town boasts of 2 beautiful lakes, Crystal Lake, a supplier of some of the town's water, and Lake Quinnipiac, an eye-catching boating and scenic walking route. Wakefield's Upper Common is the home of several war memorials. As an example, the World War II Memorial was renovated with town donations in 2012. The Lower Common, marked by its 1885 bandstand, holds many annual community festivals and charitable fundraising events. Surrounding the Upper Common are 4 houses of worship. 10 other congregations are scattered throughout the town, meeting the spiritual and charitable needs of its residents. These temples and churches are key to the impetus and success of the food pantry. The downtown district, which has retail businesses, ethnic restaurants, banks, and town buildings, is worth an architectural and historical tour. Wakefield is committed to excellence in education with its public and private schools. A new junior high is about to be constructed. The town is more residential in character. Yet the town's proximity to convenient highways attracts a strong commercial base. Traditionally, Wakefield attracted first-time homebuyers and young families, but now many of Wakefield's citizens would not be able to afford to buy a house in Wakefield as a first-time purchase. Approximately 32% of residents are over the age of 62, which makes the McCarthy Senior Center a valued resource. So, with Wakefield's rich topography, social services, and community spirit, how did the need for a food pantry surface? And how would this hard-working community respond? This is the story of the Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry from its beginning in 1982 to its 30th anniversary in 2012. In the early 1980s, the United States experienced a severe recession, which peaked in 1982 when the nationwide unemployment rate was 10.8%. This was the highest rate of unemployment since the Great Depression. During this time, many houses of worship and civic organizations in Wakefield were inundated with calls for assistance. The needs were basic: food and shelter. Reverend Keach, the pastor of the First Baptist Church, turned to his church's mission board for help. His wife, Joan Keach, Margaret Fuller, Tina Cooper, and Matilda Tyne responded with an idea: establish a food pantry to provide emergency relief. We spoke with Joan Keach, Tina Cooper, and Lois Adams.
I'd like to start with Joan and Tina and ask you, what prompted you to start a food pantry in Wakefield? What was your approach in serving our early clients in those early years?
And I soon found myself on the missions board. And the first meeting I went to was at Joan Keach's house. And one of the questions, or I guess the only question I remember at the time was that Joan asked, what can we do to reach out into the community with help?
And I think I asked that question because my husband would come home from the church office and say, well, we had another call today for food. And these became increasingly often.
Right.
And so that led to that question.
It didn't seem as though there was a great need. And in fact, the first year we had 17 requests. And then it developed as time went on until about 1998 or somewhere around there. We had somewhere like 890 requests. And then in 2001, it grew to 1,088 requests, and that was a lot at that time.
Yeah. And I remember that it grew quite a bit in the beginning because we realized that we at First Baptist couldn't provide enough food.
Right.
And
they all joined, and so it was Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish, and they all joined us, and that's how we became the Interfaith Food Pantry. That's where we got the name. We
Yes,
just started
that's right.
with the food pantry
Yeah.
as the name.
I had no idea how far hunger went in the community. I always thought that the people that called the church or came to the door were the homeless type of person, scruffy, in need of a shower and all that sort of thing. But soon, whole families.
Very well, and it was always a pleasure to be able to provide food for them.
Somebody.
I remember one thing that sticks in my mind the most was when a mother would come in with a little child, do you have macaroni and cheese? And I remember one day we ran out of it, and a little boy or girl said, oh, heck.
And it was a real, as I said, learning experience for me.
It's a wonderful community, and the spirit has been wonderful among the townspeople. And I'd like to see more people volunteer.
Now, but I'm just so terribly impressed, extremely impressed with what you've done, and I think you're on the right track.
Absolutely. And I feel that it's just not one person or two or three people who make the difference. It's the whole community. The whole community is involved in it. About it in that way, I just felt as though as long as there's a need, there'll be a food pantry.
Jim and Carol didn't think they would ever have to come to a food pantry. Recently retired and ready to enjoy this time in their lives, they were blindsided when their daughter-in-law, mother of their 2 grandchildren, passed away unexpectedly. Their son, already in danger of losing his job because of too much time off for medical reasons, needed to focus on paying medical bills. So Jim and Carol agreed to take care of their 2 grandchildren. Already on a fixed income and stretched thin with other emergency expenses, there was not enough money to pay for basic items like food and shelter. The Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry helped Jim and Carol get through this difficult time.
32 million Americans experience food insecurity. Half of these, 16 million, are children under 18. In 1992, the United States continued to experience several years of high unemployment, large deficits, and slow economic growth. The effects of the 1987 Black Monday stock market collapse and the spike in oil prices due to the Gulf War were felt everywhere, including Wakefield. Consequently, in 1992, the Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry experienced significant increase in the need, resulting in approximately 500 visits that year. Still housed in the First Baptist Church, the pantry continued to respond with the help of its volunteers and the Wakefield community. Such growth, however, necessitated changes in the pantry's structure and operation.
What prompted the creation of the food pantry as a not-for-profit legal entity, and how was the original board of directors chosen?
In 2001, I believe it was, Tina Cooper, who had been a long-time coordinator, needed to step down, and it was decided that because the new coordinator would most likely not be a member of the First Baptist Church, this would be a good time to move it out truly into the community and have it be a really community-based organization, not just at the Baptist Church. It was time. The pantry was growing. Over the years, the need in Wakefield had gotten quite a lot bigger, and it was at the point where it really needed to be a community-based organization, legally outside of any one congregation.
The humility with which people would come in and express appreciation for what we were doing, and we have a woman who still continues to come to the pantry, especially at holiday time, and she's made these very elaborate little lollipops or boxes of chocolate for all of the volunteers. And I'll bet you she's been doing this for 10, 15 years. People are very appreciative.
That it's not our place to judge, and if people are asking for food, they need something.
Right.
And I think that's something that was made, it was easier to hold on to that in our philosophy because we are interfaith and because our founding board was actually from all the congregations, and even though that doesn't always happen now, I think that it's in our
pantry. I was very touched by the compassion shown to all people, to everyone, and that was a huge factor for me, and I'm sure for anybody else coming in who's come from a business background. And it's not that we're not kind people or good people, but to watch this happening had a huge impact on me. And
that humanity, that human to human, you're helping your neighbors in need, you're doing someone a favor. It's nothing to be ashamed of to accept help, and it's nothing to feel lordy about if you're giving help.
Fred is a 59-year-old veteran who has had a troubled life. Untrained and unable to find a steady job since he left the Army, he has drifted from job to job his whole life. He has distanced himself from family support due to bad choices and extended absences. Over the years, he developed diabetes and high blood pressure because of his lifestyle. The benefits he receives as a veteran are enough to pay for the room he rents, but not enough to cover much else. He comes to the food pantry every 2 weeks to get enough food to see him through. Sometimes he just comes to talk and socialize. For this short amount of time each week, the Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry is his family.
Older Americans are often forced to limit their food intake to compensate for costs of healthcare, housing, and heat. The need for the food pantry continued to grow, as evidenced by 3,000 visitors in 2009. It became obvious that the food pantry had outgrown its location. More space was required. A larger space would allow the pantry to obtain free or low-cost food from the Greater Boston Food Bank, be open more hours, and provide fresh meat, dairy, produce to those in need. The Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry moved to its current location on the lower level of the AmeriCal Civic Center. The pantry now boasts of a larger, more private space that is easily accessible to Wakefield residents.
When I came on board to the food pantry in 2006, it was running as it had been for many years, and then we started to experience a significant period of growth over the next 2 years, and we were at the point that we were outgrowing the location at the First Baptist Church that we've been in since the beginning of the pantry's existence. So we started to think about how we could move to serve our clients better as far as providing more food and providing different food. And in that way we mean perishable food like fruit, vegetables, and meat. In our current location we just couldn't even think about that. So we got approved by the Greater Boston Food Bank, and we started receiving food from them at little or no cost, but we were really out of space. So we started searching around Wakefield for a new location, and space opened up at the AmeriCal Civic Center that was perfect for us. It was downtown, it was discreet, it was the right amount of space, and the rent was relatively low. So we set about, after visiting various food pantries in the community, to determine best practices on a plan to actually relocate.
Hi, my name is Maureen Miller, and I have been director at the Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry for the last 6 years, since 2006. Over the last 30 years, as you can imagine, the food pantry has faced many challenges and taken care of a lot of changes. None, though, as significant as the change we faced a couple of years ago when we moved here to the AmeriCal Civic Center. And here we are, our new pantry. Judy News, who is our administrator at the food pantry, and she has a great story to tell you about this quilt that we have on our wall. So, Judy?
Well, we had a client for several years, and one day she came in with some hand-sewn shopping bags, which we have to purchase. And we very much appreciated it, and she brought them in a few more times, and we got her some free fabric, and she made more. And then one day she came in with this beautiful quilt. And she said she just wanted to give something back. And we've helped her, and she helped us, both with the bags and the quilts.
Tracy is a single mother of 3 young children. She has a high school education, but no other training. With the support of neighbors, she's able to work a few days a week cleaning houses. The money from that work, plus welfare assistance, helps get her through the month. Tracy comes to the food pantry towards the end of the month when food is running out or she has not received her welfare check. Tracy's stress is somewhat alleviated knowing that the food pantry is there to help feed her family.
So this is Jim, and he's from Shaw's, our local grocery store, and he is a partner with us in helping us with our Kids First program. He not only gives us the food at a low cost, but as you can see, he's doing the hard work and delivering it to us, which is always a challenge for us to get the food into our door. Jim does this every Monday for us during the summer as part of a kids program, which was developed to supplement the fact that the kids during the summer are not getting their school lunches and breakfasts that they usually get. So we try to provide more kid-friendly food during the summer to help those families. Thank you, Jim.
You're entirely welcome. Our pleasure partnering with the Food Pantry from Wakefield.
I work with a great bunch of volunteers, whether we're cleaning, coding, stocking, or working with clients. We try to treat everybody with dignity and respect. We see the good things and bad things. We're there for good times and bad times. We see and hear about people's chemo treatments, radiation treatments, and then we're there a year later when people come back and we hear that they're cancer-free.
I'm Mark Richardson, and I'm actually a business analyst with Keurig, and this is?
I'm Kathy O'Connell, and I'm a project manager also with Keurig, and they've kindly sponsored us to come and spend time, on company time, to come and volunteer in efforts like this and others in the Boston area.
This is probably my 5th time maybe doing this run. And interestingly enough, I've done it probably the past 3 weeks in a row. Prior to that, it was maybe a month ago, and then before that was probably a month ago, something like that.
Alice and her husband have always been entrepreneurial. Since they met, they have tried to make a success of one business or another, and some attempts have been successful. However, problems with a business partner and the weakened economy recently resulted in bankruptcy and many legal bills. They have lost everything. There is a chance the house they live in now will be taken from them. With a referral for legal aid and food from the Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry, they may be able to get back on their feet soon.
The Wakefield Interfaith Food Pantry has more than 45 volunteers.
Some days somebody will come in and they won't know where they're going to sleep the next day. They'll come in and they may have 2 children and have another child that's in the hospital. And then you'll shop with these people and you'll try to help them select exactly what they need for food. You'll give them a can opener and maybe help their daughters select the best cereal for them. And then you'll weigh their groceries and you'll walk them out. And then you put a hand on their shoulder and you'll let them know that, you know, you're there. The pantry's there for them if and when they need to come back again. And it makes you feel good, and it makes you realize why the pantry is there. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the pantry is here and why it works. And that's one of the reasons why I volunteer.